Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with another book review. I feel like I have not done one of these in such a long time, but I'll be doing another book review today, and I'll be reviewing the book Bonfire by Kristen Ritter. And yes, Kristen Ritter is the person who plays Jessica Jones in the Marvel's TV series. So anyways, let's just get on with it. So I don't know why, but I have been putting off this review for such a long time. I finished the book ages ago, I think maybe like a month ago by this point, and for some reason I have everything written down in terms of what I want to say, but filming it, I don't know, I just was not really in the mood for it. But to move on with all the other book reviews that need to get done, I'm going to film this today and finish this book review. So anyways, as always, I'll be starting off with the non-spoiler section, aka the summary, a brief summary of the book. So right off the bat, in the first few chapters of the book, it actually starts off with flashbacks of when Abby was still in high school, and there she's actually bullied by her fellow peers. And during that time there, she actually witnesses this type of game that took place, and I'm not going to go too much into details about it because it will be a spoiler. So she already knew her own version, or her own high school version of this game. And during this whole time, for some reason, up to this day, she's not really sure what really happened, but there was a period of time when people started to get sick, specifically the popular girls. And when they were getting sick, it actually drew in a lot of media attention, and it turns out later that it was all a hoax because they just wanted the attention. But to this day, she's not really sure if it was actually true or if actually there's something real behind this sickness. And now back at present day, Abby is actually back in her hometown, which is a place where she only has bad memories of. Remember, she was bullied during high school, and she also has a father there who she doesn't even like. However, she's really there for work. She's there investigating this environmental case about dumping toxic things into public waters from Optical Plastics, which is actually the town's life-saving company and basically the only source of income for a lot of families in this small town. And of course, since this town is so reliant on this company, no one is really willing to speak out despite all of these obvious infection. And so Abby is having a really hard time investigating this case. And of course, now that Abby is back in town, she becomes reacquainted with some of her high school peers, specifically Misha, who was Casey's sidekick. And Casey was the source of the disappearance from a long time ago, and still to this day, no one really knows what happened to her. So she becomes reacquainted with Misha, as well as Brent, who is the school's heartthrob. Well, at this point now, maybe not the school's heartthrob because they're, a lot older, but that was how she remembered him. And as already stated, Abby is still really confused as to what really happened to Casey all those years ago, and as she investigates this environmental case further, she's starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, Casey was actually not lying when she was sick during that time. And of course, as the book continues, Abby is now juggling between two mysteries, the mystery of the past and the mystery of the present. And Abby also uncovers this reimagined version of the game, and as she discovers more and more clues, the deeper into the rabbit hole she falls until she can't distinguish between reality and fiction. So my 2 cents. To be honest, I am a little bit disappointed with this book. That's probably why I didn't really want to do a book review on it for such a long time, but it's just because from the synopsis, I thought the game would be a lot more dark, a lot more sinister. But right from the beginning though, you already find out, or at least I already found out, that this game has actually been around for quite some time, and it's not really anything new, it's just a little bit different. And I also thought that this whole book will focus more on the disappearance of Casey as opposed to more of the environmental case. I knew it would be touched upon because that is a reason why Abby is back in town, but I really thought the whole book would mostly focus on the disappearance of Casey. And I also lacked some sort of connection with Abby and any of her acquaintances. And the ending for me was actually quite obvious. I actually kind of suspected who the culprit was, so when he or she was revealed, it was at no surprise to me whatsoever. So overall, it was kind of a disappointment in terms of the ending and the overall book in general. But at the same time, I think I just went in with the wrong mindset because I was expecting something dark and sinister with the game, and I thought the book would mostly focus on the disappearance of Casey. But if you go in the right mindset, knowing that this is mostly about an environmental case and that it's not really going to focus too much on the disappearance of Casey, and that the game is actually not as dark and as sinister as one might think, then I think this book would be better. It's just that I went in with different expectations, so I came out disappointed because my expectations were not met. And now that I have given you guys a better expectation, if this book does sound interesting to you, then definitely go check it out. And if you read this already, then continue on with me to the spoiler section. So as I already stated, this book could have been so much better. The two main things that I was mostly interested in was the disappearance of Casey, which was not met, as well as the game and finding out what was going on with that, and that was not really met to my expectation as well. So both aspects of what I was most interested in actually fell flat for me, which is probably why this book was such a disappointment in general. So let's just kind of break down the 2 points that I thought would be really good. So the game was not at all what I had imagined. So the game that Abby knew back in high school was actually a game that a lot of people were aware of. I believe some of the teachers were kind of in the know. They didn't really know too much, but they kind of suspected something about it. And during this time, basically what it was blackmail. I mean, even now it's still blackmail, but at that time it was just it was a popular girls getting these girls drunk, and then someone would take pictures of them in various stages of undress, and that was the blackmail. They'll tell them like, hey, if you don't give me money, then I will release these photos, etc. Basically classic blackmail. And so that kind of game was what Abby was really well familiar with back in high school. And the only difference now that it's 10 years later, is that the game is still there, but now the adults are very heavily involved. So 10 years later, the game is essentially this now, where Misha, the school principal, which, can you imagine, like the school bully back in the day is now the vice principal, not to mention she was also the one into the whole game, and it made sense kind of in this weird way that she would continue on with this game now that she's an adult. It's like nothing, like it's like age has not stopped her. So basically now this game is that Misha would pick or hand select some of these girls, give them these scholarships, which actually is scholarships, but then basically like businesses are involved somehow and company executives are involved somehow to pay money for these photos. So it's basically kind of like leading them to a slaughterhouse in the form of a scholarship. So anyway, that's really what the game is about 10 years later. It's very revolting because, you know, you will think that the vice principal is supposed to be like taking care of the kids instead of leading them and doing something else to them. It's kind of like, it's kind of gross and very revolting, but it's nothing sinister and it's not dark and it's not like deadly or anything. It's just gross and revolting and very disturbing. But other than that, I was kind of not that impressed with what I was expecting, because I was expecting something like really intense. I mean, I guess it's intense too, but like it's a different version or a different form of the intensity that I wanted. So anyway, that's the game aspect and why that did not lead up to my expectation. Moving on to the disappearance of Casey. So as for the disappearance of Casey, I guess there was some sort of sinister quality to it, because Abby finds out that Casey was actually not alive and well and had just simply run off all those years ago, but instead she was actually murdered and killed because she was poisoned actually because she wanted a bigger cut from the game. So I guess there's a sinister quality to it, but the pacing of it was just not my cup of tea. It took such a long time for me, the reader, to get to that point where I found out about all of that, and that pacing was just so slow. So honestly, by that point I was not very invested in finding out the truth of her disappearance. In fact, I was mostly invested in actually simply finishing the book. So that was really disappointing for me on that front. So with these two main points being very disappointing for me, there weren't that much else to look forward to. The characters for me were not that interesting as well. I also really did not like Abby at all, and when she started to have that mental breakdown towards the end, that was basically it for me. I was kind of just like, alright, I have checked out from Abby essentially. So honestly, out of all the characters, I think my favorite character would be Condor, if that's how you pronounce his name. I actually really liked him, even though he's such a side character and didn't really play major roles other than the fact that he saved her from Brent. But other than that though, like I was actually secretly rooting for him and Abby to get together. They had such great chemistry in the beginning. They had great banter, and then after the whole situation with him saving her, I thought they'd end up being together. But then the epilogue, it was just like, she's like, alright, I'm going home now, and he's just like, alright, bye. Like, disappointment all around. Very unsatisfying on that end. And as for the other characters, Brent and Misha specifically, they were such obvious like culprit characters. They played them so well that it was kind of a disappointment for me that they were the actual culprits. They're the ones who poisoned Casey, and they're the ones behind the whole game, even like the adult version too. So very disappointing all around with the characters. The pacing was also quite slow, but I already complained about this, so I'm not going to continue complaining about this. And like I already said, the ending was quite obvious in terms of the culprit. I guess the whole reservoir escapade situation was quite interesting, but that lasted like 3 pages, so it was kind of a letdown at the end of the day. So overall, majorly disappointed. I feel like I've said that word so many times already, but that is essentially how I feel about this whole book overall. I did not really like it. The plot was very messy all around. The characters were not very well developed, and the world building and the ending was very obvious from the start. So not the greatest in terms of what my expectations and what the actual reality of this book was like. But anyway, that's all I have to say for Bonfire. If you like this review, if you agree with me, or if you're complete opposite and love this book, do let me know in the comments below, because I really did not like this book at all, to be honest. I had such high expectations and it failed me so miserably. So let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with me, because I'm really curious to see if anyone else liked this book or if everyone just really didn't like it as well. But that's all I have to say for this review. If you do like this review, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's it for today, guys. Thank you. Bye.